to say even today that I just talk about content creation and that's what I'm known for, my old version of myself is like, how did you get there? And honestly, it was these small baby, really scary steps that were like, really? Like, okay, you have this huge wide net of people, but you're getting smaller and smaller. And it just felt like kind of at first, like the walls were closing in on me. Like, is this the right move? And it was super, super scary. But once I made that move and I found that energy, like I said about podcasting, and I'm like, I'm just talking about the things that fire me up and light me up. And people can see that. It's the thing that people always say is like, how are you this excited about podcasting and marketing? Like we see your energy, but is that real? Is it authentic? And it truly is, because I'm not wasting anybody's time talking about things that aren't important to me.
All right, friends, welcome back to another episode. I am thrilled to welcome back to the show my very dear friend and previous guest. What's the best way to say that? Is this like second or third time on the show, Krystal? Welcome, by the way.
Yes, thank you. I'm like, I always say recurring guest. Anytime I have someone come back on the show again, I'm like, it's a recurring guest. But yeah, I mean, I could shoot for a record if that's what you're really looking for, because then I'm going to try to beat whoever else has been on the show more than me. So I'm coming after whoever that is.
Well, let's just like pipe down there, Paco Taco, because you gotta earn your keep here. You gotta earn your keep on the show. Well, I wanted to have you back on. For those of you who might be new to the show, Krystal, I'm going to have her explain herself here in just a moment. But Krystal talks all about podcasting and her love of content online. And we had an incredible first pass of the show where you came in and talked about, I have to tell you the story. I don't know that I told you this, that I sent an email out about your episode and that the email or the subject line said, could podcasting be your next stage? And somebody who heard you talk all about getting started with podcasting, starting, growing, marketing, all the things with your podcast. One of my listeners heard that episode, got that email, and she's like, yes, that's me. And she legitimately started her podcast because of that episode, which I think is just awesome. So,
oh my gosh, that's
I guess you are earning your keep. So I guess that's what we are doing there, but we're talking actually beyond podcasting today. So why don't you just, for those who are new, maybe to your world, to the podcast, tell us what you do today in your business.
Yes. Well, since the last time I was on the show, I've done a slight pivot to where I'm zooming out a little bit to talk more to the global content creator. So not just podcasters, but also people that are exploring YouTube and blogging and really just showing up and speaking online, which I love coming on your show and talking to your audience, because what we do aligns so well together. Because if you can't speak very well on your content, I'm going to send you to Heather's podcast to get all the tips and tricks and the confidence building tools that I know she delivers on this show time and time again. But that's really what I'm focusing on today, is helping creators create their content with confidence. And I have to say that my confidence boost really shot up after you and I connected and started hanging out more. And you gave me all your word vomiting techniques and all the different things that you have said. Hey, have you ever tried this?
All the secrets.
All the secrets. Yes. So that's what I'm doing today.
Okay. I love it. I love it. And also now in my head, I can't get out. I don't know what movie it is, but Mean Girls. Her hair is big.
It's full of secrets. Yes, exactly. And both of us are kind of rocking the big hair today. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where they're all hidden.
I told Krystal this morning, I have a whole day full of podcast interviews, which I'm doing video for. I'm trying to get better at hitting go on my camera. And I was telling her this morning, I was like, Krystal, today's the day, first day I put on a push-up bra. I told you earlier it was actually in 2 weeks, but that's a lie, because I got ready for a charity fundraiser on Saturday night and put on Spanx and heels, and I definitely wore a push-up bra. But I'm feeling fancy today, so we're doing recording. Like, we're here for it. We're here for a good conversation. I have high expectations, and I know you will knock them out of the park.
I'm ready for it. Like, I got my big hoops on today. I did my hair. Let's go. Let's do this.
All right. So we're here today to talk about when we talk about content online, establishing your brand, growing an online business online, there's a lot of people who like to talk about the struggle bus of how hard it is growing a business. And then they like to tout look how amazing it is once you reach the top of the mountain. And we paint these stories of transformation where we focus on the lows to meet our customer where they are, but then we cast this big vision on the dream. But I don't think a lot of people talk about the in between. And I'm running a series right now on the podcast where I'm actually sharing real stories of online entrepreneurs who have a variety of different style businesses, but really showcasing their journey and specifically sharing the skills that they develop along the way. On this show, we talk about the skill of using your voice and communication, which is highly essential to that growth. So I'm excited to dive into your specific story. I think we're actually going to probably cover some things that I don't know today because I haven't actually directly asked you these questions yet. So are you ready, Krystal?
I'm so excited. I always love the messy middle. I feel like is where I really get grounded in the people I want to learn from. So Heather, you do this so well with just being so raw and just honest with your audience. And I know that that's why they're like, that's why Heather's my coach. That's why she's my speaking coach. Cause she just keeps it real, bra, no bra. She is here for the honest truth. And that's what we're going to do. Yes,
always a bra. It's just sometimes might be one of those like soft sports bras that are anyways also.
Yes, exactly.
I know that was a compliment, but also it makes me laugh a bit. I'm like, when somebody tells you that you're just so raw and real, it kind of makes me go like, oh, I don't know if that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It's a great thing.
Okay. All right. So Krystal, I want you to take us back a bit. And we're not going to go back to the very beginning on the night you were conceived. We're not going to do your whole life story, but I want us to take it back to a couple of years ago. So think 2019, 2020. That's really where I know you started getting a lot of confidence around focusing on podcasting. But tell us a little bit about what your business looked like, especially in 2019, 2020.
Yeah. So, it was in 2019, the beginning of the year where I was still in this transition period of moving or wanting to move away from what I was doing. I was serving people, in this capacity of, I had a podcast that was about female entrepreneurs and I hadn't rebranded to what I'm doing today. I was in the messy middle for sure, but I had already launched this course. So I was sending out these mixed messages of, hey, I teach podcasting, but really I do a podcast about female entrepreneurs. There was like not a lot of alignment. And it wasn't until further in the year that I was like, what am I doing? I love to talk about podcast. Like this is my message, but I had to get the confidence to actually say that out loud to other people. And there was this weird thing where I almost felt guilty. Like it felt indulgent to me to really talk about the thing I wanted to talk about because it was so fun. Like it was so fun. And I had heard so many of these, like, you got to hustle and it's like, it's got to be part of the struggle. And I was like, but podcasting is so fun. Like, and I love it. And it's not a struggle and it flies out of my mouth when anybody, they're like, hey, I think I want to start a podcast. I'm like, come sit by me. I can tell you all the things. And so I went through this weird transitional journey of just stepping into that and fully owning it. And, ever since then, people are like, you want to start a podcast, go talk to Krystal. And that's the first thing that flies out of their mouth. And it took a while for me to really step into and own that confidence. But if you want to get practical, if you're asking about the business side of what I did some one-on-one coaching and I had a program that I slowly kind of grew out over time. And it's still kind of evolved into what I'm doing today, but those were really the catalyst moments of stepping into what I'm doing now.
Yeah. I mean, talk about this idea of when people say podcasting, they think Krystal, this idea of being known for something. Mm-hmm. It's so funny looking back on it. It's like, oh yeah, you want to be known for something. But on the other side of it, it is hard to say like, oh, am I really going to like niche down, as they say, or like really pinpoint it down as that's the one thing. I mean, grappling with that, I'm sure that was really, that took you a long time to decide?
Yeah, it did. And mostly because, you were saying starting like 2019, 2020, if we go back even further, when I really got started on this journey, I was like buckshot. Like there was stuff I talked about when I was back in my blogging days. I don't talk a lot about my blogging days because I always tell people I was a terrible blogger and it was not successful, but it's where I got started.
The blog if we were to do some online digging.
No, I don't even think it's out there. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. But it was about writing, parenting, marriage, like self-improvement. Like it was just all over the place. And so to say even today that I just talk about content creation and that's what I'm known for, my old version of myself is like, how did you get there? And honestly, it was these small baby, really scary steps that were like, really? Like, okay, you have this huge wide net of people, but you're getting smaller and smaller. And it just felt like kind of at first, like the walls were closing in on me. Like, is this the right move? And it was super, super scary. But once I made that move and I found that energy, like I said about podcasting, and I'm like, I'm just talking about the things that fire me up and light me up. And people can see that. It's the thing that people always say is like, how are you this excited about podcasting and marketing? Like we see your energy, but is that real? Is it authentic? And it truly is because I'm not wasting anybody's time talking about things that aren't important to me.
Yeah. Okay. I love this. And I start thinking about what do I get really excited about? And I think chocolate. So maybe in another life, I could do a whole thing around chocolate as a business.
Be a chocolatier. Yeah. I mean, I could think of some things you could talk about. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Now I want some and I can't have some because I'm still on 75 hard, but that's okay. All right. So what I want to start thinking about, so we think about you winding up 2020, you started thinking about, right, what's your next level in business? I'm just curious, what were some of your bigger goals you had for your business looking back when you were in 2020? I know that was a very interesting year for us, like thinking about it, and goal setting was a little an awkward topic, but what were some of the goals that you had for your business at that time? What were you looking ahead, looking to do?
Speaking on stages, because I had attended some of my first business conferences that were really in our space, right? Like the online entrepreneur, the online business owner. I had attended there were some book signings. There was, events that you and I attended together. And it's just, we did not meet in person, by the way. Heather and I have never met in person. This makes me really sad. Yeah. But it's like one of these things where like I had this energy around, oh my gosh, people can actually get paid to speak on stages. And I would see people and I would just immediately say, that's what I want to do. Like they were doing what I wanted. And so in 2020, like coming into the first few months of that year, I was like, this is my year. This is what I'm going to speak on all the stages and people are going to come knocking on my door asking. And do I need to tell everybody? That's not what happened, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, those were my big goals was just like, and it was a physical stages because at that point I wasn't thinking of stages in the way that after learning from Heather Sager, I see stages in a totally different perspective and a very different mindset than I did back then. I was thinking it was just this conference-y live event type of stage. And that's really what I had my eyes set on.
Yeah. So let's just go there. So when the whole world shut down, the whole conference world shut down, and that wasn't a thing anymore, what happened to that goal for you?
I think it just it was like on pause, like it didn't feel important. And it wasn't that it wasn't important in the overall scheme of my business. It just felt like it wasn't important at that moment, like there were other priorities. It was like, that's not what you should be focusing on right now, right at this moment. And it shifted slowly as I saw other parts of our industry shifting online. And I was like, okay, I'm watching what it just turned into. Instead of it being the immediate goal to, I'm going to watch what other people who are still doing what I want to do. What are they doing and how are they showing up in this big presence that I still wanted to have?
So what was as you started seeing that, right? What was the catalyst for you to say, you know what, I actually think this could be reality for me. I want to speak on stages. You already had spoken on stages. It's not like you were shy about being in front of groups, but what really made you start thinking about, okay, I want to take this seriously and really start leveling up my communication skills?
So now that you're saying that, I did have one live event speaking experience it was February 2020. It was like the end of February. So it was like, this is why it was that big goal. Cause I knew that this thing was coming. I had this live event and I was like, I'm just going to keep the momentum going and I'm going to and then that's when everything just kind of like came to a big halt. And so it was from that, I was like, well, what else is there? And honestly, I have to attribute so much of it of just hanging out. This was around the same time that you and I were like in the same sphere. We were in some of the same Facebook groups where I was following you on Instagram. I was listening to your podcast as well, because I was hearing you in my ear saying, okay, guys, like, let's not all freak out. It's not all about the stage, like the physical stage. There are other ways to show up online. And so I really started paying attention to the types of content I was consuming as a consumer now. I was attending summits, I was attending workshops, webinars, virtual events. And so I really started paying attention to, again, the same people that I saw on stage now are doing these other podcast episodes, live streams. This was another really big one. That was around the same time I started live streaming and experimenting with consistently going live. And it just gave me this energy of, let's do this and practice until we're ready to be back on that physical stage, because we didn't know when that was going to happen again. And I still wasn't sure, is that really what I wanted? I don't know, but I'm going to practice in the meantime, because that's just who I am.
Yeah, it totally is who you are. And that's the thing is, I think you really are the epitome of a special kind of entrepreneur that is listening, one who feels totally comfortable being in front of an audience, has no issue stepping up to a microphone, sharing your message. In fact, you love it. It lights you up, right? We talk a lot on this show about people who are terrified of public speaking. And that's like one of my number one downloaded episodes. But you were already good. You were already showing up. You were already glowing from it. I'm just curious, what was missing that made you go, you know what? I actually want to work on my speaking skills. Like, what was the catalyst for you?
I wanted to be funnier on stage. Let's just be really honest. Like, you have that question that's like, what would you do if you weren't doing what you're doing today? I love stand-up comedy. I love watching comedians. And it's one of those things where I'm just like, I was watching these people, speaking of all the conferences I'd gone to, I'd watch these people get on stage and they were crushing it. They were getting laughs. They were making points. They were making people cry in the audience. And I was like, I felt like I was just getting on stage and people were listening, and it wasn't like they were really hearing and like taking, there was no real emotion. I felt it was just kind of like, I'm standing up and I'm speaking, and it didn't feel like I'm sure I know, you know this, Heather, but you're in a room and when you say something that has power and authority and energy in the room, you feel that. You totally feel that. And I didn't feel that on stage the first few times that I spoke. And so I was like, I want that. I want how these other speakers made me feel. I want to do that to other people. So does that answer your question? Is that kind of a weird answer?
I didn't know that was your answer. I wanted to be funnier. Like how funny is that? Okay, side tangent here real quick. When you talk about, we all know that moment, we either experienced it in an audience or from a stage where you have that powerful just energy exchange with an audience. And what's interesting is in 2020, the number one pushback I saw from people of going, virtual is just not the same. I'm just not feeding off that energy. And while, yes, there was a lack of energy exchange from the audience feeding back, I think what actually happened was people had the painstakingly awareness that they didn't actually have the energy to carry a virtual room. And I think that was scary for them. And it was an easy cop out to say, it was just because of the lack of interaction. No, here's the deal. It's as a presenter, you have to carry the energy in a room. And the faster you figure that out, the faster you learn that it's more than just your content. It's about your presence and how you show up, the more success you'll find. So side note, that's my little mini TED talk in the middle of this episode.
You need a mic drop, the mic drop sound effect, because that was so good. So good. So true.
Yes. Okay. So you made the decision. I want to be funnier. You made the decision. I want to start prepping for speaking on stages. You jumped into Speak Up to Level Up, I think in January of 2019, right?
So it was 2019. No, it was 2020.
2021.
2021. Yeah. That's what it was.
I went weird in my head there for a moment. 2021. So last year, a little over a year ago, you jumped inside the program. Talk a little bit about, and by the way, y'all, this isn't a promotion for the program, though. Doors are opening up for Speak Up to Level Up on the 21st of March, if you want to join us for our spring cohort. But this is more of a conversation of what happens when you make the decision to work on your communication skills and level up with your voice. So, Krystal, when you started paying attention, instead of just showing up on microphones or on stages, when you started paying attention and saying, how can I learn the skill of speaking to be more effective, more funny, entertaining, whatever that looks like, what did you notice right out of the gate?
So in making that, like, I'm going to show up serious and I'm going to like actually put these things. Okay. So the number one thing, and this is going to sound so dorky, but this is just totally who I am. I love how you in the program have so many templates, because I'm not a template person. I like, hey, just give me the thing and I'm going to do the thing. I'm more of like a visual, show me the outline, like show me the format and I'll make it my own. And so you have the one that's like, the speaking script, or like how to actually formulaically lay out a talk. I go back to it. It is a template on my hard drive. Like I recopy that every single time I have a presentation. I create a Canva thing. I have to speak. I use that thing so much because it was mind blowing to me that I would typically write out like some bullet points, like, oh, this is the beginning, the middle, the end, kind of like we all learn how to write in elementary school, how to write a paper. This is what it's supposed to be. Well, that's pretty vanilla. And that's how vanilla my talks were, with just a beginning, a middle, and end. It didn't have all this like pizzazz and the banter and like tell this story and this is how you can connect this and you can loop it back around here. And let's just be really honest, what you gave me was basically a stand-up comedy script. Like we think about these punchlines that these stand-up comedians are able to, at the very end, you're always like, how did they bring that back around? How are they able to, give us that zinger at the end that goes all the way back to something they said at the very beginning? And I felt like all of a sudden I had this template that would make me unstoppable. I know it's so dramatic, but it's true. It's the thing that I go back to time and time again. So in looking at your program, yes, it's so funny. I know Heather, she laughs at me as, just a friend of mine. She's like, really? Like you go through the courses, like from the very beginning, I was like, yes, I'm an A+ student. I will watch every single video. I do every single worksheet. Like this is how I am. Now I will listen to Heather on like 2X when I watch her videos, which is kind of hard because she talks so fast.
2X is like intense. Like,
but what I was doing is I was like, okay, like I want to digest all of this information. And then I want to go back when I need it. And I know exactly where I need to go. And so I found myself, I went through the program and then I found myself going back to that time and time again, because whenever I want to go and pitch someone, and we can talk about that too, because that was another aha moment for me, is I would go to fill out these applications to speak on stage. And I'm like, well, I don't have it all written out. I don't have it all done. And I would make something up in the moment. I shouldn't admit this out loud. I would make something up and say, oh, I could talk about this. And I could, fill in a silly title here and put in a description. And what are your talking points? I was pulling all of this out of my ass. Like I didn't know. And I wasn't even writing it down sometimes. I wasn't even like saving it in a Google Doc. And so having really the slap on the wrist, that's what you gave me. It was just like, Krystal, you're being sloppy. You can be better than this. And it's obvious now to me why I wasn't getting asked to speak on a lot of these stages, because I was just kind of like, oh, well, I'll just throw it together. It'll be good enough. And hopefully somebody will ask me to speak on stage. So what you helped me do was get my act together, like be more prepared in what you're doing, because it actually makes every single part of the process so much easier if you do, like, you follow a system. And that's really what I learned from you. So does that answer your question?
It's so funny that to hear back, right? The things that speak the most to people. You say my program has templates and stuff. I laugh because I am totally not a template swipe script person. I'm anti that. Right. Everybody learns that in the very first session of, if you're looking for that, you're in the wrong place, because you got to learn how to communicate. Otherwise you're reliant upon some formula and you will not memorize, like it won't work. So it's funny that comes up, because we do help people walk through frameworks that allow them to bring their own information, their own ideas, their own humor, their own personality into a framework that works. And I always just giggle that's the thing. That is the thing.
I want to say something else too, because you have a lesson in there about stories. And I think that I kind of brush over, like I always tell myself, well, you have a bunch of good stories, and it's like, oh yeah, I could just pull this, out of the air whenever I need it. But I'm going to tell you, I've been on so many podcast episodes and so many other stages where I'm like, oh, I wish I would have pulled this other story out instead. It would have been so much better. But now that I do have this framework of looking at my own journey or my own personal life, that I can bring in these stories. And I have a different way of looking at speaking now. And it's funny because I can't unsee it now. Like I can't forget all the things that I've learned, but I can look at all the places where I'm like, oh my gosh, I showed up and I did the best that I could in that moment. But if I would have had this, I would have been so much better. And so it's just part of the journey of getting better. But yeah, including stories and making it that personal connection it's everything for sure.
It's one of my personal favorite. I joke every week when I send an email. I'm like, this is my favorite module. They're all my favorite. But one of the analogies I'm going to use here, y'all know we talk about analogies and we do cover analogies in the program. I think with stories, specifically that moment you were saying, I think so many people, especially people who are natural on stages in front of audiences, that was me before I got serious about becoming a professional speaker. It's like making the decision to say, I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to start eating clean. I'm going to throw away the processed foods. I'm going to cut the sugar, or just make sure that you're eating what your body actually needs. It's like making that statement and then saying, like when it comes to mealtime, going, oh, what am I going to eat? You're not going to make smart decisions when you're already hungry. You need to plan ahead and prep, fill up your pantry, your fridge with the stuff that actually is the good for you food. Because you and I both know that when we get hangry, we're going to like snarf down the Snickers bar. That's why they have a whole campaign around like the Snickers hangry. So the same thing happens. And I think this is the miss with what I would say good presenters. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, is that probably one of the biggest sneaky distractions in your business is being a good presenter, because it's not a pain point. You're not terrified of getting on camera. You're not worried about doing a podcast interview. However, like Krystal, you're sitting here going like, oh man, when it's time to like fill out one of those forms, you're pulling stuff out of your ass. And it's not like it's bad stuff. It's just it's not intentional. And the thing though, is the next level of business on the other side of you setting some damn good intentions with the plan to back it up. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you here, because I think so many people, it's easy to sweep under the rug of saying, we don't need to focus on something unless we have a problem with it. Many of you are walking around thinking that you're totally fine in this area of speaking, and that's fine if you want to stay where you are. But if you want to reach another level in business, you sure as hell better work in this area of your business.
Yeah. And I think that, I know a lot of people now in the online space that run their own events. And so they are in charge, like they're charged with picking speakers and who's this and who's that. And I've seen a little bit of behind the scenes of why they pick certain people. And I thought, man, like so many of my old pitches they're so plain. And I think that what people are looking for is something that's compelling, something that's not what you see every day. Or, I've applied to some events that have at minimum 600 plus applications. And if you're not standing out, you're not showing that you're prepared, you got your shiitake together, then they're going to blow past what you have to say, because they're not going to waste their time on somebody that's mediocre. They want to see that you're serious about what you do and that you show up really well. And yeah, that's a priority for me today. And it wasn't in the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. I love that piece. Let's talk about that pitching element, because you mentioned that before. You recently participated in we had a live event called Pitch Fest, where we help people get like their pitches together, get more comfortable getting out on stages. Talk a little bit about how you going after opportunities and going after stages, how that has shifted from the winging it, entering in your stuff and forgetting to save what you submitted era.
Oh my gosh. It's embarrassing like to think about. I'm like, you could have even like just put it in a notes tab on your phone or something. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, so really from that moment of just saying, I'm going to pitch, because that's my number one goal in 2022 is to get on more stages. It's still something that I'm striving for. It's not making X amount of dollars in revenue. It's not this, it's not that. It is getting on more stages, because I have seen the power of visibility. I have seen the power of somebody else saying, you should listen to this person, not me screaming from the rooftops, listen to me, I'm amazing. It's somebody else saying, we have someone of value that can add more value to what you're doing. And you got to go check out what she's doing. You got to go follow her. Or even just the mere fact of, recently I did a speaking opportunity for Podcast Movement University. Now this is really cool because, and Heather and I talked about this behind the scenes, I had applied to speak for one of their events that's happening in LA in March. It's actually happening probably when this episode goes live. And I got an email back that said, your talk wasn't accepted. And of course, that's always like, oh, I really wanted to do this. Like it was like just disappointing, right? Because you want everybody to always say yes. But at the end of the day, what ended up happening is I had this confidence in myself that I didn't have previously. Previously, I would have stopped at, oh, I'm so disappointed, I'm going to give myself a pity party. But what I did is I pivoted and I switched to, I feel really good doing virtual events. I feel really good showing up live. So I sent an email back to them and I said, hey, well, I'm thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Maybe we can work together in the future. By the way, if you ever need someone to help you with a virtual event, hit me up. I'd be happy to. And it was because I sent that follow-up email. They said, we would love to have you on there. So I think that in the pitching process of getting those no's, getting those rejections, getting those, maybe, or we'll circle back in 6 months, whatever, it's really helps. It's a muscle, right? It's that muscle of confidence. And it's given me the ability to feel a lot better when I do send out pitches, that even if it's a no, I don't have that like, oh, it's all about me. It's a blow to my ego. It's okay. What can I learn from this? What can I take away from this to make my next one better?
Yes. I love that you brought that up. That is one of my core philosophies, core values, is the idea around stuff's going to happen. Rejection's going to happen. Like stuff's going to go wrong. The question is what opportunity can we make out of it? Because that puts the control in our hands to be able to navigate how we're going to approach something. I love how you turn that rejection around. It's just one of my favorites. What else have for you, when you think over the last 15 months or so, how have you seen either not necessarily your business change, but what have you noticed that's different now that you're showing up in a more powerful way, a more effective way, a more intentional way?
I would just go back to the referrals and that authority of someone saying like, oh, you are on Heather's podcast. You are on the podcast movement thing. Like, and so it's given me this authority that, yes, again, me shouting from the rooftops and saying, this about myself, it really has that leverage of a different position in the market based on other people saying, she's qualified, not just I'm amazing, I'm this and that. And so that authority, credibility boost of, oh, I can put their logo on my website now, or I can, do a shout out on social media and say, hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. And it's like this impressive thing that I can show out there. But in reality, it all comes down to, it makes me feel validated in all the ways that I really want to show up as an entrepreneur, because we have things that we have to do in our business that sometimes we're like, oh, I don't really want to do that, but it's part of the job. So I have to get it done. But this stuff for me is like, oh my gosh, I get to talk to other experts in my industry about the thing that I love to talk about. And in doing that, I get to serve the audience I want to serve. And they are telling other people that they should listen to me and they should come to my website, go to my Instagram, go to my YouTube channel. Like it's just this, and I know you talk about this, it's the magnet. It's the magnetic talk of being able to bring people into your sphere instead of, just yelling at people. Here I am, look at me. It's like, it's the whole thing.
So the big question everyone is wondering, so Krystal, are you funnier now?
I don't know that I'm funnier, but I can tell a better joke. I can tell a better joke from stage. And I have been like, it's this weird, and Heather, I have no idea if you know about the psychology of this. I know you read 1,000 books every other day, but I want to say, I think about when I'm speaking, everything's a lot clearer. Previously, it would have been muddled. It would have been a lot more like, oh, what did she say? I got to think about, like it was just a lot more cloudy in my head when I was trying to process conversations on podcast or on a live stream, or if I was on a panel. I actually did a few panels last year too. And that was a brand new opportunity. I'd never done that before. I'm like reaching out in the Sulu group. I'm like, SOS, anybody done a panel? I need your help. I don't know what I'm doing here. But it was in doing that. Again, it's the muscle memory of practicing, being prepared, knowing what my talking points are going to be, knowing what my big call to action was. But okay, this is pretty funny. Talk about full circle moment. The speaking mantra. Who do you want to be? How do you want people to feel about you when you're on stage? That was something I think I had thought to myself, but I kind of felt a little egocentric about it. I'm like, are you supposed to say, I want people to feel like to laugh at my jokes, or I want them to cry? Like that felt really weird to me. But for you to say, no, you like, here, you have a place right at the top. Like, what's your speaking mantra? Like, call it out. How do you want people to feel? It was really freeing to have that, like, oh, Heather said I can actually put this on here. And now it's like, it's the thing. And it's what's helped me shape all of my talks and make sure that I'm working towards that goal of being funny, of being relatable, or whatever I'm working towards for a talk.
Yes. Okay. I love that you brought that up. The speaking mantra is one of my favorite things that I teach. Just quick shout out. I do cover it in one of the earlier episodes of the podcast. So we'll link below if you want to learn more about what we're talking about with being more intentional with how you show up. If you want to be funny, calling yourself funny, I'll hit on that in the link to that episode in the show notes. That's great. Krystal, I remember you sent me a box at the end of last year when you were doing kind of your debrief from 2021. And if I remember word for word, the box said, Heather, holy crap. I spoke on every stage on my dream list in 2021. And what's funny is you sent me that message in like the fall. It wasn't even the end of the year yet. Can you tell me what was going through your mind when you sent me that message?
It just didn't feel that it didn't feel like it was possible to call my shot and say, these are my dream stages, and actually make them happen in a 12-month period. And it wasn't even a full 12-month period. Like you said, it was October was the last speaking event, the big one that I did. And so it was from January to October to say, I want to speak on, it was 4 really big stages, and they all happened. And I'm still like, what? Like just thinking back to, like you said, like, let's teleport back in time to January, 2021 and saying that this is going to happen. I remember thinking, yeah, but the world's not all open and it's not all back together. And I don't know if this is actually possible. So there was this like sliver of self-doubt still like at the very bottom of everything that I was saying. But also I was just like, you know what? It's going to happen. It's going to I have the tools. I have the resources. I have this great support system of knowing that A, B, and C won't always equal a yes, but it will get me damn closer to that yes than I was before, whenever I was just like, I hope that this works. Let me throw a spaghetti against the wall. That's not what I do anymore. And I'm excited. I have bigger stages now, which is still terrifying to think about the different stages I want to be on now, but it's also really, really exciting.
Yeah. So when you look ahead in your business and the visibility opportunities that you want to chase in the future, what are you most excited about when you look ahead to 2022 and beyond?
Oh, I think I want to work on my delivery still. I think it's something that like I want to get better. I want to get funnier. I don't know if that's a thing. I want to be funnier, but I really want it to be a service to the audience. Like I think that that's always the priority because and you know, anybody listening to this podcast will understand there's so many people that do this really badly. So many people that don't put their audience first, or they don't put who they're speaking to first. And you listen to a webinar, a workshop, a virtual summit, an event, and you're like, why did I waste an hour of my life? And I never want anyone to ever say that about what I'm doing. And so I always want to deliver this just above and beyond overachiever, over delivering to where people walk away from anything that I said. And they're just like, that is worth my time. That's really what I'm looking forward to. And as far as stages, it's so funny because I just was redoing a page on my website and I decided, you know what, I'm going to put on here my dream stages. And it was really scary. It was really scary because y'all, I'm shooting for the stars here. I want to be on Good Morning America one day. Like that, this is my new dream stage. Like, holy crap, that sounds scary to even say that out loud. But I mean, this is really what I'm looking at and I don't think that that's going to happen in tomorrow, but it's something that I'm shooting. Like, this is my goal. Like I have what I'm aiming for now. And I look at what are the things that I have to do to get there. And let's be totally honest. Good Morning America probably doesn't want to talk to someone back in 2019 who didn't know what their messaging was and had no idea what she was talking about and wasn't confident. Like, I feel like I'm getting a step closer to those dream stages by just keep moving forward and keep trying.
I love that. And I love this idea around setting big dreams, right? Even when you say like, it's not going to be tomorrow, it could be, but right. But you set something out that where you do question your ability to hit on it. You did that with your dream stage list. I want to make sure people don't skip over how important this is. I think in the online world, we know it's not easy. There is no easy button. I wrote some copy earlier I was really proud of that. It was like, people are aware that online business is not the field of dreams. Like just because you build it does not mean that your audience will come a running. Like you have to actually do the work. But I do think there's a disconnect where people have these big arbitrary goals of $1 million business or a $6 million business. They don't actually know what that means, but they place it so far out in the future. They just focus on how do I get through this week, this launch, this PDF, this whatever thing. And they're so focused to what's right in front of their face. They don't actually set the bigger dream goals because they know they're not possible for them right now. And I say, like, if you set that bigger goal for yourself so you can keep your eyes up so that you don't spend so much time and energy obsessing over those little things that are not going to matter 6 months from now anyways. Like, how do you keep your eyes up on the bigger prize so that you can be less obsessed and caught up in and perfection-y stalled in? I just made up some like phrases there, but I think we obsess over things that in the grand scheme of things are not important. It's because we're obsessing over a goal that's in the moment versus looking over things that really are what we want down the road, but we don't believe that we have the skills to get there. Stop focusing on the damn PDF and start focusing on the skills, people. Like,
yes,
that's my 2 cents.
No, that's 100%. And like, I mean, just to iterate on what you're saying, what I do is if I achieve something, like you said, like as soon as I sent you that box where I was like, oh my gosh, like I did it, Heather. Like it was this celebratory, because I'm the worst at celebrating goals. And it was something that I was like, okay, I need to get better at this. And so in sending that message, I was doing 2 things. One, I was celebrating and letting you know, oh my gosh, like this happened, I achieved this thing. But it was also this challenge to myself, like, what's next? What are you going to do next? Like if you climbed Everest, you know, what is the next mountain that you're going to aim for, not the next one you're going to conquer, right? Because what I do love about speaking is there's been some amazing opportunities that were never on my radar that have kind of come into just fruition because I was putting myself out there in big ways in the first place, where people are like, oh, I saw you were doing stuff with this company or with that brand. Now, like, can we talk? And I'm like, whoa, I had no idea that that was even going to be a dream stage of mine. But now here I am. And I've shown up in places that still to this day blow me away because they were never on my radar, but it wouldn't have happened had I not taken that initiative to say, this is who I am. This is how I'm going to show up, and let's do it. Like, let's go. Like, let's make this work. Cause I'm having fun. Yes, of course I want to come speak on your stage. Let's do this.
How dang good is that? I forget that people struggle when we talk about dream stages, right? I see a lot of people struggle with this activity we do right at the beginning. We're going to do this in the speaking workshops coming up around how do you really target your dream stages? And I see so many online entrepreneurs be like, I don't even know what stages are out there. And that's not an excuse to not set a few of them. Because as you said, the more that you get in it, the more opportunities will become available. It's just like thinking back to when you first started in the online space. I mean, I don't know. I think every online entrepreneur has a moment where they remember life before knowing online marketing and building digital courses, programs, all this stuff. And beforehand, it was like, nothing. And then you're like this whole new world that people in real life do not know about. I think it's the same thing for speaking. People don't realize, they just have their perceptions around what it is, event stages. But once you get into it, opportunities are everywhere. You just have to be brave enough to step into it. And holy crap, have you done so the last few years for you, Krystal? I'm so proud of you. And I can't wait to see what you do next on stages.
Yes. Thank you so much. I have to tell you, for anybody that's listening and you're struggling to find your dream stage, just pay attention to what's happening, because I can tell you, I spoke on a stage last year that the opportunity never would have come. Like, I don't even think that it would be possible for me to do it. But I paid attention to something that was trending and something that was like hot off the press, like really in the news. I wasn't on like a news station or anything. I spoke in someone's paid group, and it was because I was paying attention. And I was like, oh, they could really use an expert on that in this moment. And I don't think they have anybody in that community right now. So I just basically raised my hand and said, hey, I'd love to offer value to your audience. And it was just one of those that just totally blew me away. It wasn't on my radar.
Can we just name the stage, please?
Yeah. So it was Amy Porterfield's Momentum Community. I had always said like, oh my gosh, it'd be amazing to speak on Amy Porterfield's stage for, her entrepreneur experience or one of her virtual events. But last year when in April, when Apple Podcasts made all these changes, they didn't have anybody in their community that could really, I just like raised my hand and I said, hey guys, if y'all need anybody to kind of decipher what's going on, or there's lots of questions around all these changes, I just kind of, again, I kind of did it a little unprepared of exactly what I was going to say, but I also was like, here's some bullet points. I knew some highlights of what would be really helpful. Again, using Heather's template. I was like, okay, if I could just do this, I can throw everything into, I had the confidence because I was like, I know that I have all the tools in my toolbox to make this thing work. I just need to put myself out there with the confidence that I can do this and make it happen. And it ended up working, and it was so cool. And now I can say that I've spoken in front of her membership community, which is super, super awesome.
It's so, so awesome. We have had 2 Sulu members speak on Momentum, Amy Porterfield's program last year. I want to hit on just one thing with that. You said you originally had the goal to speak on Amy's stage. Side note, if you're in online marketing, I would imagine that's probably something on your vision board. I think it's like a rite of passage if you listen to her show. But I think so many people get tied to thinking like, oh, I want to speak on this person's stage, where they tie one specific thing to it. Like the goal is to be a guest on Online Marketing Made Easy or something like that, right? What I want to encourage people to think about is set the intention, but be flexible on how that surfaces. So like Krystal, maybe it's not Amy's podcast, maybe that'll come, but she saw an opportunity to speak on a different kind of stage for Amy, Momentum. I had a very similar goal. I've had speaking on Amy's stage on my set list for a long time. I kind of just put it on the back burner, wasn't focused on it. And then randomly last month, I get a message from her team saying, hey, would you be willing to join a panel and have Amy interview you to talk about your experience in our B School bonus package? And I remember I got that going, one, it was during a time where I wasn't supposed to be working. Two, I remember thinking like, I liked B School, but I mean, I was more into Amy's bonuses. So am I really going to be the best ambassador for B School? And the next morning, I remember I opened up my little journal that I have my goals on. And over in the corner, I saw speak on Amy's stage. And I was like, holy shit, this dropped right in my lap. I didn't even chase it. Like that's Amy's stage. And sure, it was a Facebook live stream, but I had this epitome. Goes, I was so focused on like the goal being a guest on her podcast or speaking at her live event that it was dropped in my lap, and holy crap, what a beautiful opportunity. We just had that earlier this week. And is it going to be something that turns into business? No. But it was the being in her presence. I remember when I logged in and introduced myself, I met Amy before, but she didn't remember me. When I introduced what I did, she goes, wait a minute, are you the coach that worked with Tarzan K? And I was like, sure am. I've also worked with Tyler McCall's, Zafira Rajan, I worked on her keynote at your event last year. And she's like, holy crap, Tarzan is like rambling on and about you. You're so good at what you do. And I was like, yes. So if anything, it was just a good validation of strengthening that relationship to hopefully get on the stage. I go off on this side tangent for a second, because I think we get so focused on how the goal is going to play out that we sometimes forget about the opportunities right in front of us. Stay open, keep looking for opportunities. I think just let shit come and make it magical.
Yes. Oh my gosh. 100%. Don't just have everything in a box. I'm totally against boxes when people are like, this is the own like tunnel vision so much that it's almost like you have the binoculars and you're like, I don't see anything. I'm like, just throw them away. Just look at the whole vision, look at the whole landscape of all the cool opportunities that are out there, and let that magic come to you. Because once you start putting yourself out there, I'm telling you, if you're listening right now, you've never put yourself out on a stage, you've never pitched, you've never talked on a stage, and you're feeling a lot of those nerves, like just sit in the uncomfortableness that maybe that's what's going to be when you first do your first talk or you first do your first pitch. But I'm sitting on the other side of it. And I am so grateful that I did start doing like Facebook Lives way back in the day that nobody ever showed up to, and they were terrible, but it was like that slow muscle. Again, I keep saying this, it's that muscle of speaking. It's the word vomit. It's the showing up when no one's looking. It's recording myself. And then I tell Heather, I'm like, is it normal to record myself in this like dictation app like 5 times? And then I take out all of my filler words. And she's like, no, you may not be normal to other people, but you're normal to me. Like this is good. This is good practice.
You're right on track. Sister. All right. I so appreciate you coming today, Krystal, and sharing your story. I know you and I could talk for hours, as we actually have, because we had a different meeting before this podcast interview, but we're gonna like land the plane here. For those who are now excited to learn more about you and follow you on your journey to get on Good Morning America, can you share where can they connect with you?
Yes, at krystalproffitt.com is the best place. And it's going to have links to go to Instagram, go to YouTube, go to my podcast, all the different places. That's Krystal with a K, Proffitt with 2 Fs and 2 Ts. And Heather, I just want to say thank you so much. I mean, we are friends behind the scenes, but I just so appreciate the value that you continue to deliver to me on a personal level, on a professional level. But I see you doing all these amazing things, and it inspires and encourages me. So I just had to give you a little love.
Thanks for that love note. Last week I talked about how much I love love notes. So that was just very special. Thank you. Yes. I feel the same about you. All right, friends, if you were inspired by Krystal's story, be sure to tell her. Make sure you tag her on Instagram. You can find her handle again at Krystal Proffitt. I'll tag her on everything when I roll it out. But I want to encourage you, speak up to level up. As I mentioned, the doors are opening here real soon, but I want to give you a little taste and help you start exploring what is possible for you to start using your voice in a more intentional way, like we talked about today. So doors are officially open for our speaking workshop series. It's getting a little taste of Heather and the methods we talked about today. When Krystal was talking talking about that template, that framework earlier. We're going to dive into some of those pieces, start helping you put together the pieces so that you can be more strategic with your voice and grow your online business. So if you want to get more information on that, head over to heathersager.com/speaking workshops. And I hope to see you in the workshops real soon. All right, Krystal, thanks for joining today. I'll talk to you real soon on Vox.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, friends.